Hi, if you're new here, my name is Jasmine and I am passionate about saving families money on food without compromising health. So today I am showing you how I make my jam recipe. So I used mixed berries. I used a combination of raspberries and blackberries that I had in my fridge that were going to go bad pretty soon. And I mix it together with some strawberries and blueberries from my freezer. Now, these are from Trader Joe's and I don't normally shop there. However, I did have them and I did want to use them so that they didn't go bad. I combined that with about a cup of cane sugar. Again, this is organic, but I got this from Aldi, so this was pretty cheap. And I also combined it with about 1/4 cup of lemon juice. Now, again, as you can see right there, it is organic, pure lemon juice from the brand Lakewood, which tends to run pretty expensively. However, I've had this jar for quite a long time, so it does last and it is well worth it. I combined these together. I let them reduce down and I, over time, let that sugar thicken up the recipe so that it would become really nice and jammy. I love this recipe so much because it's perfect for the spring and the summertime when berries are in season and they're super cheap and delicious. There is literally nothing better than a berry in the summer and springtime. So I wanted to get this recipe out ahead of time so that you could prepare for the spring and summer seasons as we approach them. And you can use this recipe to create your own jams so that you can preserve the life of your berries over the winter seasons so that you can enjoy this super yummy, delicious recipe with your family throughout the cold months. Again, it's best to use berries that are nice and ripe and delicious. However, like I said, frozen works perfectly fine. A combination of frozen and also fresh is perfectly fine. And even if your berries are just a little bit gross, honestly, pick out the ones that are really nasty and just keep it pushing because the recipe will still work and it will still be so yummy. You can spread this on a nice slice of homemade bread, which is also super delicious and cheap to make. You could spread this on some homemade biscuits that you make. You could spread this on just about anything. I love to mix it in with yogurt for my kids as a delicious snack or as a breakfast option. This is such a great recipe to have on hand as we enter into this coming season of spring and summer. Throughout the making of this jam, you will see a lot of clips of me stirring this like religiously, me taking it off the stove, turning the heat down, stirring it, putting it back on the heat. This was intentional. This is because this recipe is very hands-off. You genuinely could just let this sit on your stove and visit it every 5 to 7 minutes and give it a nice stir and just let it continue to sit. It needs to sit for approximately 45 to 50 minutes on the stove. So like I said, that seems like a super long time, but when you factor in the fact that most of it is hands off, it is an incredibly simple recipe to make and have on hand for this coming season when you will have probably lots of berries that you would need to preserve for the winter time. So you can let this sit on the stove and revisit it every 5 or so minutes. And the reason why I was turning the temperature down is because as the mixture begins to sit, and especially as it gets toward the end where it's pretty thick and the sugar has really dissolved into the juice of the berries, it will start to pop a bit. And you'll notice this as I continue to check my sweatshirt every so often and eventually put on an apron like a smart person. You'll see that it will pop a little bit. And so because of that, I would take it off the heat and give it a stir, because the stirring is what activates the popping. So if you take it off the heat and give it a stir, it will pop much less. And then you can just return it back to the heat and step away for the next 5 or so minutes while you do something else, whether that be play with your kids, tend to a chore, whatever it is that you need to get done. You can just let it sit and then return back. If you start to see the mixture just get a little too bubbly and poppy, you can turn the temperature down on the mixture and just let it simmer at a lower heat. That will definitely help a lot. However, do keep in mind that the lower it simmers, the longer you'll need it to simmer, because the heat is what obviously allows the sugar to meld with the juices of the berries so that you can create that delicious jam mixture. I decided to strain my jam after it was completed because I did use blackberries and raspberries that do have quite a bit of seeds in them. And I know my family and I know them well that if I leave the seeds in, it's much less likely to get fully consumed than if I were to strain all the seeds out. So I took the time to strain out the seeds here. And please do not make the mistake that I made of setting it on top of the jar and overfilling it. You want to make sure that you hold your strainer above the jar, or use a much wider mouth jar so that you don't get jam everywhere. This was a huge mistake on my part, and I got it so messy all over my counters, which is fine. Nothing that can't be, quickly wiped up and taken care of. However, it did just create a little bit of a sticky mess. So keep that in mind if you are going to strain out the seeds from your jam, or you can just use berries that are much less seedy, like a blueberry or even a strawberry would be fine, because most people can tolerate strawberry seeds in a jam. So don't make the same mistake that I made. Make sure that you either don't strain out your seeds, use berries that don't need to have the seeds strained out, or again, make sure you hold your strainer high above your jar so that you can get all the seeds out without making a giant mess all over your counters with jam everywhere. So there you have it, delicious homemade jam. This one happens to be mixed berry. It is so yummy. We ate this on our bread products the next day and it was so good. This is a great recipe to have in your arsenal, especially as prices just continue to soar in the grocery stores.